Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding, and back once again with the legend, the man, the myth, Sugar Shawn Ray.
That's it. Welcome back. What's happening? What's going on in the world of professional bodybuilding?
Well,
As we count down to the
I got to bring everybody to what's going on in your world, my friend, because this section is brought to you once again by our good friends at Mutant, which we are fully representing here today. So you got some products cleverly displayed in the background, fooling everybody with that one, Sean. And Panatta. And speaking of Panatta, my friend, you have some exciting news to share.
Absolutely. Finally got my shipment in via Italy, and they are placed at the El Cajon, the gym. My partner, George Jackson, who I'm proud to be reunited with since 1988. He was my first manager when I got into the game for 6 months.
Wow, reunited, and it feels so good for a little peaches and herb for you there.
Yeah, so you can come down to El Cajon, the gym, and get some workouts there in California. They will also be out here in February for the URSA trade show. Right there in San Diego.
Well, you know what? That'll be a great opportunity for me to actually get there and see it because I will be at the URSA trade show. But you got some custom Panatta, is that right, my friend?
I did. I got like a Shawn Ray signature line. Several pieces are very. I mean, they're not unique pieces, but they're custom for me and bear the name. So you got to get down there and try those machines out. The good feedback is because they haven't had them in this general area is that they want more, and that's always a good thing to know. I believe there's about 15 or 18 of the gyms from Scottsdale, I should say from Chandler, Arizona, Victorville. They got some out in Florida, several different ones in California, in Pacific Beach, Vista, also out there in Chula Vista and El Cajon. But yeah, there's a franchise out there. Matter of fact, I think Jake is a member of the gym in Chandler, Arizona, courtesy of George Jackson, the CEO.
Very good, my brother. Well, and enjoy the equipment. Of course, anybody in that area, stop in, tell them Sugar Shawn sent you for a Panatta workout. It'll do you good. All right, lots to get to, Sean, in the world of bodybuilding today. Speaking of Big Jake, I want to bring up the Olympia. We put out some stuff on the Olympia just last week in our last episode. And as usual, the not negative people out there, they pick up on certain headlines, which I think is kind of funny. So I see a big thing with my face on there, and it says, the meet the Olympians as a train wreck. And it's like, well, that's taken a little bit out of context, but I appreciate the effort in using our show, to boost your platform. But now, listen, did I say that? Yes, I did. Absolutely. But you got to put the entire context, and I really wish if they're going to give us credit, by the way, give us the proper credit out there, everybody. That's okay that you use our stuff. I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah.
When you put misleading headlines in either one of our mouths, it gets out to people, and that's all they see because people tend to read the big words these days. They don't actually read anything that's under it. They don't look into it. A lot of them don't even see exactly what you said. So what we were trying to do was describe the current state of things going on. As one of the examples was the Meet the Olympians, which has grown exponentially to over 400 people, possibly close to even 500 this year. Now that becomes a logistical, of athletes. That becomes a logistical nightmare and trying to find, even if they're sharing tables, right, which isn't the best, but you got to do what you got to do. That's 250 tables that you got to find. You got to put 250 tables somewhere. Then you've got to have room for the thousands of people, and it was probably 4,000 or 5,000 people that went through that at last year's Olympia. That becomes a logistical nightmare, thus the phrase train wreck. Okay, so don't put words in our mouths as usual. And what we're trying to do is come up with different strategies to help the situation. Now, whether that's limiting athletes, a different system in place, things like that. So in our criticism, we're actually trying to provide also some ideas and or some answers to some of these things. But I just want to clarify that because every week we look out there, all I see is, it's funny, we get accused of just being negative, but all anybody's picking out is the negative.
Well, I mean, that's the day and age of the media. It's clickbait, right? I mean, people want to click on that one little soundbite and then pile on without any context. It's strategical, but if you watch the entire clip, you'll understand how these soundbite words get put in there. It's a shame that we got to spend time reviewing what we've already reviewed. That's what sucks. We've got to quantify. Hey guys, this is just a joke. You ready? Here it comes. Don't attack me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'd hate to be a comedian It's hard enough to be a bodybuilding critic, but can you imagine being a comedian? All right, guys, there's a war going on over in Gaza and over here with Israelis. And before I say that there's any Jews in the house or any Palestinians, I mean, we're living in an alternative universe of political correctness.
Yeah,
We're talking about something that we've been a part of for 40 years. I think we have it on good authority. We don't sit back and watch it online. We're not going through social media to see what he said or she said. We're actually there. We're actually boots on the ground, walking the expo, backstage with the athletes, warming up, at the press conference, at the athletes meeting. I mean, it takes a lot to walk in your shoes and my own, and then talk about what we've just experienced. Is it a train wreck compared to 5 years ago? Yeah, because the numbers are so big. We don't even know half the participants. A lot of them don't even, a lot of the guys that are there don't speak English. So you're climbing over one person to get to another. So in essence, there needs to be a reorganization of what we've created for ourselves. This is a great thing to have. It's a nice problem. Overcrowding is a nice problem when you're a contest promoter, but it needs to be discussed. The elephant in the room is, where's Bumstead? How do we get to Big Ramy? Where's the Andrea Shaw? And you've got to plow through a dark area over God only knows who that flew in from whatever country they've come in from. And you're trying to figure out, okay, this is the men's physique area. I'm looking for the women's bodybuilding area. Where's the 212 guys? I mean, it's chaos. And you have to have been there to understand what chaos looks like. And when you come out of a chaotic situation, there's other adjectives to describe that. Train wreck would be apropos for the situation, and not something that's in a negative way, but you just came out of a train wreck, right? It's chaos.
Well, listen, there's
Talking about it is not criticism.
Listen, there's good and bad in anything. Now, listen, let's keep things real here, as we always do. We have hundreds and hundreds of athletes more than any other show on this earth. The Olympia is the Olympia. And listen, I am all for more people qualifying, or a greater amount of people qualifying, because it shows growth in the sport. However, that needs to be put in check and put in context. And then we have to have, as we've described, some type of series of cuts or quarterfinals, semifinals, that type of thing, because you logistically just cannot put that many people in one area, or include that many people into the many things that we do at the Olympia. And I bring this up specifically because we get the most criticism out of anybody. The Arnold is a great show, big show. Our biggest qualifier for the Olympia has been well established. Arnold is Arnold. But they don't have anywhere near that. First of all, they have half the categories. And they only do an invite, which is great, but that's only 12, 11, 12, 13, 14 people per category that they do have. So that's a whole different animal than having to deal with 450 or 500 athletes for anything in particular. But I just wanted to clarify that, because, again, I see a lot of comments out there. I see other things. And I want to make sure that, the people that we represent and work with understand also that we are here to help. Okay, we are here to offer inside info, experience. We've both been in this game over 45 years, and many, many Olympias between the both of us from a production standpoint. So, and I'm sure they're very receptive to ideas, which is great. And hopefully we can get a handle on that, because it does make it challenging, which makes it challenging for everybody. And you want a great experience. The Olympia should always be the greatest bodybuilding experience on the earth.
Well, and to put a button on it, Bob, listen, don't talk about the Olympia and the Arnold in the same breath. They are two different animals altogether. There is no comparison. Arnold Classic is an invitational. It is an Olympia qualifier.
Correct.
That was born in 1989. The Mr. Olympia was born in 1965. The majority of athletes training today with that Olympia dream, with that pinnacle of getting to the Olympia, it supersedes any other qualifying show on the planet. I'm a former Arnold Classic champion. It was very good for my career. But I didn't wake up one day and go, I want to be the Arnold Classic champion and full stop. No, I wanted to go and be Mr. Olympia. That's where the dreams, all roads lead to the Olympia. So talking about another show in the same breath as the Mr. Olympia is kind of desecrating the headstones of Joe and Ben Weider, who built the entire thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger's done a phenomenal job. I've never missed the Arnold Classic in person. I know what it is. 22,000 athletes, 200,000 plus fans over 4 days in Columbus, Ohio, in the Greater Convention Center that brings about $40 million to that economy. It's nothing short of amazing, and never could have happened without the help of Jim Lorimer, Arnold's partner back in the day. Brian Powers is doing a great job to keep that legacy living on. But the Mr. Olympia stands alone. It's not a contest for prize money. It's for history. And all the things that come with being Mr. Olympia is game-changing, life-changing, even for our Olympia Showdown champions, our bikini winners, our wheelchair divisions, across the board with 11 pro categories. It is non-comparable to any other animal, including the Olympic Games on the planet. I want to get that clear.
Well, speaking of animals and your negative view towards everything on this earth, Shawn.
Yes.
We we routinely get accused of being the negative Nellies, the old guard, the old guys in the Muppet Theater up there just bitching and griping about everything. Yeah, of course, everything was better in our day and all that. So we've been, on the other hand, so from our standpoint, we think these guys are soft these days. I shouldn't say just guys and girls, the athletes in general are soft, can't take criticism, need bubble wrap or a safe space, and basically keep telling everybody, quit whining, do your job, we'll do our job, okay? We cover the sport. You guys are the sport right now. That said, I saw a couple of videos out that they're whining about us bitching about them whining.
Correct. That's how it works, Bob. If you whine, then I'm gonna bitch, and if I bitch, then you're gonna have to complain, and then if you're complaining, it's a never-ending cycle. The problem is, Bob, is now you have the athletes doing it to the critics, journalists, media people. Can you imagine yelling back at the TV and you're, I don't know, Tom Brady, and you're screaming at, I don't know, one of the Bob Costas, because Bob Costas said that you had a bad game. You're now going to yell at the TV. You're going to go to your social media and make a video. Listen, Bob, you shouldn't. I saw this with Floyd Mayweather. He went after Jim Gray.
I remember
that. In the ring, Mayweather wins a controversial fight because he rabbit punched one of the boxers that got a cheap shot on him. And of course, Jim Gray's expert commentary thought it was a dirty shot, thought it was kind of sneaky. And Mayweather chose to use that moment in time to say that you don't like me as a reporter anyways. Why are you interviewing me? You don't like me. I mean, when the athlete's taking their time to recognize what a commentator's saying, then you got to remember they're paying attention to everything. And it will affect their mental preparation to the game because they're letting the noise in. It's noise. If you're Mr. Olympia, what do you care about the noise? Go train. I don't want to say shut up and dribble, but you got to go back to the gym and do what you do. You can't monitor this. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but you are a showpiece. There's nothing in your skill set that says you've got to get up, pick up a microphone, represent the masses as some type of mediator to the press. We're the press. We can say what the hell we want, good, bad, or otherwise. The athlete is supposed to just train and represent himself and his institution. But trying to get everyone to hey, tone down the rhetoric, guys. You're hurting our feelings. And if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. That's not where we're going with bodybuilding.
Well, I'm going to actually, we're going to be helpful to these guys. I know a lot of them are a little bit younger. Again, now, just to give you guys a little context, me and Shawn have been in the bodybuilding world about 45 years. Yes, we're that old, okay? We've been on the coverage side for probably the better part of 20 to 25 years, okay? Even when Shawn was competing, he was doing commentary, and I got in shortly thereafter with that. Olympia-wise, I've been at that helm for 20 years now. So when we hear things like they need us to be relevant or they're just trying to stay relevant, okay? Let me give you guys a little bit of lesson in math once again, okay? We've been doing coverage for decades, okay? You collectively, and we're not pointing about anybody specifically, Shawn, God forbid we should do that. The chances of you guys being around in the next 5 to 6 years even is almost nothing. And I challenge anybody, you could go back just 5 years in any pro shows, and you'll see that at least half the guys are gone. If you go back 10 years, there's almost nobody around. And we talking in terms of the Olympia, Shawn, you're only talking about 2 guys, which is basically William Bonac and Brandon Curry. Other than that, I don't think anybody was around from 10 years ago. So
interesting. Both of those guys, we were commentating on their introduction to the pros.
That's correct. We've seen careers begin, flourish, and fizzle out. We've seen guys come in, be Olympia champs, and then retire, okay? We're not going anywhere. So stop saying things like we need you. First of all, what kind of gall do you have to have to think that we need you to be relevant? No, listen, you're just who's here right now in the news, making headlines, winning shows, losing shows, doing whatever. We're providing our expert analysis and coverage, okay? That's just what we're going to do. So stop saying such asinine things as we just need this for relevance. We've been relevant our entire careers in this part of the industry for over 25 years. So hopefully we can just put that to bed. Speaking of, I'm going to quickly transition to this. I'm sure that'll make headlines too.
Yeah.
On some of the other platforms.
You're not going anywhere.
No, we're not going anywhere. Okay. Speaking of guys being around 10 years ago, maybe you can substantiate this, or at least give me your expert opinion on the chances of it. But I hear Big Ramy says he'll be back. Now that's like an exact quote. What does that mean, Shawn?
Well, listen, Big Ramy got out under the age of 40. I think he was 38. I think it's been, at least 3 or 4 Olympias that he's not been a part of.
It's been the last 3, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a very long time. When you look at the average age of some of these bodybuilders, look, William Bonnick's still going strong. He's the old man. Brandon Curry's the old man. If you've seen Big Ramy, he still puts the B in big. He has not lost any size. There's a big difference in walking around big and being Big Ramy. Big Ramy of old was Mr. Olympia twice. Big Ramy of old won the New York Pro Championships, I believe twice. He never took a break. And sometimes when you take that break and life takes over, it's very hard to get back. Is there a comeback in his future? He's got a lifetime qualifying spot by being a former Olympia champion. He can come back on any terms that he wants to come back. Will he be relevant? You can never count somebody out that never stopped being big. He didn't come down. Remember Gary Stridham when he got all small? Kevin Levrone got really small. We haven't had very many successful comebacks. This would be a very short time off, 3 years from the Olympia. It doesn't constitute a long layoff. 3 years is very short by comparison to Levrone and Flex Wheeler, for example.
Sure.
Lee Priest has actually said he was going to make a comeback. Sometimes what they say and what they do are two different things. Still a little bit too early. I believe we're still north of 12 weeks out. Big Ramy can say a lot of things. Now, that would be somebody trying to stay relevant. Hey, I'm coming back, guys. I believe Kai Green was the guy that cried wolf the most. He was coming back at least for 5 years and never did. Would we enjoy something like this? It would add something very special to the Olympia lineup in light of his absence. He would be an interesting fit that I would say could probably come back and be a top 6 conversationalist. I don't see Big Ramy coming back trying to make the top 10. If he comes back like Big Ramy, he would be a top 6 conversation. Who would be on the outside? That's the question. Big Ramy could be a spoiler for guys that would be outside that top 6. Now, who does he beat? Is he beating Andrew Jack? Is he taking out Brandon Curry? Is he knocking William Bonnick down? I mean, there are things that can happen that Big Ramy could be relevant because Hadi Chupin doesn't make it back into the country. Beirut doesn't finally make it to the Olympia. Nick Walker has another mental breakdown. There are things that could happen that Big Ramy could be a relevant conversationalist for this year's Olympia. So by him verbally saying these things makes me pause with the boy who cried wolf, right? Because if he's verbally said it, he may be actively working on that. If he's actively working on it right now, he could actively become a top 6 Olympian. Can he retain the title, defend the title? I think that ship sailed.
Well, it should be interesting. He's in his 40s now. Like you said, he's been off for the last 2, this might even be coming on 3 years. And you're right, we haven't had many comebacks of any really good nature ever. And bodybuilding is not a great sport to be making a comeback. You're not getting in a race car with a whole team and you've got some updated features and some cool stuff to work with. Age, and like you often say, my friend, Father Time is undefeated. So would I like to see it? Sure, why not? I mean, I think it adds, eyes. It adds some excitement. I don't know if the ends justify the.
Can I add something?
I don't know if the ends justify the means. Sort of, you're 2-time Mr. Olympia. I don't know what that does for you.
Let me add something.
Don't be negative.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. That's almost what everybody says to me before I say I got something to say. What would be really cool, and I know this ship has sailed and it's probably too late in the game, but Big Ramy coming back to the Masters Olympia, even though it's not about money, would have been ideal.
Now that's an idea.
That would have been an ideal scenario for Big Ramy. Since Brandon Curry initially was going to do it and decided not to, since I've heard William Bonnick is taking a pass, you're still winning an Olympia title that you don't have, that you can add to your resume without the pressure and the expectation, and in the age bracket of which you find yourself. It's not a step backwards for Big Ramy to add a second Olympia title, the same way it was not a step backwards for Derek Lunsford. You have to do the same amount of work, but the difference is you are dumbing down the level of expectation, and yet you can still get a title that you don't have, you've never had, and would be respected, and a crown that you could carry around the world on your resume as Masters Olympia champion that was created for people like Ramy north of the age of 40. Why this show would be beneath his pay grade is baffling to me.
See, now look, there you go, sourpuss Shawn. That's actually
Making sense.
that's actually not a bad idea. See, now that is a good idea. That's good coaching to me. I wasn't even thinking of Masters Olympia, but now that you bring it up, you know what? That would be an avenue. Now he wasn't specific with what he said. He didn't say I'll be back on the Olympia stage. He didn't say I'll be back to get another title. He didn't. You know, he stopped short of that. Maybe he's playing little cat and mouse there. That's fine. But maybe he will be back. And what better than the Masters Olympia in Tokyo? That would be a great addition, especially if those other guys didn't go in. He would have to be considered a favorite.
100%.
But you also bring up a point that I wanted to touch on, which is the coaches, because what we're seeing now is interesting because you're seeing literally it's just a I don't know, it's a cycle. You're seeing coaches getting shuffled in and shuffled out. It's a carousel in terms of some guy's hot. He's got a couple of guys that are kicking ass, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And we've touched on this subject many years, many times, but it's starting to look like the coaches are getting overrated, that they're being overutilized. And at the end of the day, Shawn, I know you've never been a big advocate of coaches. Are they starting to show signs that you don't really need a coach, or maybe you're better off just learning your own stuff?
Well, sometimes what's old is new, and what's new becomes old, and we are on a cycle. Maybe because we're starting to listen to these guys find their voices and talk about change, right? I remember watching boxing back in the day, and Freddie Roach would enter the ring with a fighter, and then that fight's over, and he changes his colors, and he comes back in.
Right. I remember
You're
that.
still Freddie Roach. You're the same guy. You just changed your robe to match your fighter's trunks.
Right.
Yeah, I think geographically, financially, some people are exercising options, and also they're recognizing that some coaches are overcommitted to some of their athletes and don't have the time. I would like to think that some of the athletes are taking more pride in their own ability to learn their body and try doing it alone before they actually hire a professional. But I don't think the coaches are going anywhere fast. We still have this total connection with our cell phones where you do the FaceTime, Skype, whatever they're doing to check in with somebody that's not present. And I think that's really phoning it in, no pun intended. But whatever works. Listen, I mean, these guys are going to use the tools of self-motivation, or they're going to use the reliance of a coach to motivate them. I never understood it, being an artist that didn't want anyone to touch their painting. Like, I drew that thing, it's all Shawn Ray, and I take credit for it. That never leaves my mindset when I look at a person on the stage and I interview them, and I say, so where did the inspiration for the routine? Well, my coach had me listen to this music, and my girlfriend picked out these trunks, and my boyfriend told me to go with this meal prep coach, and I decided to go with this tanning company. It is a humongous carousel of fingerprints to the point where the individuality of bodybuilding it's a lost thing. It's gone the way of the 8-track.
Well, Shawn, Rubio's coach gave him the right advices, and he went to Portugal, marked himself up for a win, gets him to the Olympia, so we will see Nextzilla in his first Olympia, a true freak of freaks, which will be interesting because there's other people that reportedly are freaks or considered freaks, but they're going to look pretty normal next to Rubio, who is just huge. I mean, this guy, if you don't see him in person, pictures and video only do so much justice. This guy is gigantic. He's got muscles that I just haven't seen in any other human in my lifetime. But he takes himself a review and a big check. Well, actually, we're going to do a check in a minute. I got some negative on that stuff, of course, Shawn, but he beats Bruno Santos in the second, and our good friend Nathan ended up in third. He got obviously not the place he was looking to get, but he wasn't too pleased in Dubai, as he was very vocal that he thought he should have been higher than fourth, maybe even in the winner's circle, but that wasn't the be. But then he only notches a third place here, so I'm going to think that Nathan's year has probably ended with that.
Well, it's confirmation of how good this year he is. He didn't like the results that happened in Dubai. All right, let's get a whole new judging panel, put him in front of some people that haven't seen him. And they decided, you're only one placement better. I think he was fourth in Dubai?
He was fourth in Dubai, and arguably he placed ahead of Rubio because Rubio was fifth or sixth, I think, in there. But they were in contention, and Nathan goes here too. So he must have felt pretty good that he was ahead of these guys, but he ended up behind.
I mean, the judges have spoke. I'm not sure where Nathan should have any bitterness. You had two different judging panels that had no affiliation with each other, and one had you here, the other had you there. So either you wrap it up or you try to go and do another show to get the W. But that being said, Rubio is the guy that I think needs to be on the Olympia stage. I think he reminds me of back in the day when you had Greg Kovacs out of Canada.
Yeah.
The biggest man on the planet. Everybody like, whoa, this guy, you got to see him in person, blah, blah, blah. Then they decided to give him an invite to the Arnold Classic. Kind of fell on his face when he got out there. It didn't translate. He was this humongous glamazon thing. But of course, it gave perspective that bodybuilding is more than just size. Rubio has to be seen in person on the biggest stage for people to get appreciation for what's possible. But I think it's going to be another wake-up call for how far he has to go and the genetic limitations that he has and how superior you have to be in that top echelon of the Olympia. We talk about the guys in second, third, fourth, fifth. They're not cutting the mustard. They're missing this, that, and the third. Rubio's going to come out individually by himself, and you're going to think no one's going to be able to stand next to this guy, kind of like a Victor Richards. But then you're going to see what the Mr. Olympia represents in terms of the fine finishes. It's not a Grand Prix. This is not a qualifying show. It's going to be the cream rising to the top, and Rubio's going to be struggling to make the top 10 when you get up against the world's best. And he's going to look very human at that point. And maybe some of the shine will be gone. But what's going to illuminate is just the sheer mass and the different places on his body, the traps, the size of his arms, the thickness in his quads. People that haven't seen it here in the States are going to really be in for a treat. But you're also going to see the difference in the elite and the freaky. There's different levels to the Olympia. I'm not saying he shouldn't go. He needs to go.
Sure, absolutely.
There are other people, for example, if Nathan Diasha goes on and he qualifies, I don't know, doing the Greece championships, when he gets to the Olympia, there's nothing there for him. It's like you're at the back of the line. But Rubio can build his fan base on that freaky size and show off his physique to the degree that American promoters would be like, you know what? I want Godzilla at my show in Michigan in December or whatever. So there's work for Rubio there. He doesn't have to win.
No, I mean, listen, he is his own entity. I put him in the same category as like a Keem Williams. He's a big, muscular guy who just has certain poses, especially from the side. Both those guys can hold their own against anybody in the world from the side. I mean, the world, okay? Any of those top guys. But that's why shows aren't really decided from the sides, because you can hide a lot of stuff in a side chest or a side tricep. You can't hide anything in a front double bi or a back double bi. That's why those poses are part of the mandatories. We're looking at, I think at last count it was 15 or 16 at the Olympia, Shawn. So Rubio will be 16 or 17 if I've lost count of anybody else that's qualified. But yes, he's a welcome addition to the Olympia. The fans will love him. He's a true freak and everything. And he's actually a really nice guy. Nice guys, sometimes they do finish first. So it was good to see. He got $15,000 for his credit. And this is where the negativity comes in, Shawn. Here we go. Brace yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Not money. We're talking about money. Here we go.
Yeah. So we start talking about money, of course, we're going to start ragging on everybody. But here's the bottom line. And it's just an observation or observation, as it would be, Shawn. But
yes.
I've seen footage of the Portugal Pro, and it looked like a very nice stage, very done, beautiful looking. And there was two giant rotating platforms on the stage. Now, it was a little silly to me, talk about rotisseries or carousels, right? And the guys were on there in some sort of a beginning where there's, 8 of them on a thing, and they're hitting poses while the thing rotates around. Right now, why do I bring this up? Because I know production very well. We both do. We've been in this game for a long time. Those aren't cheap. And there's not only one, but 2 of them. Now, the only purpose they serve is for some sort of an opening or some sort of a thing. If you had a pageant, maybe that would be a little more appropriate. It looked a little funny to me, in a bodybuilding show. But I bring this up for this reason, Shawn. So Rubio, for his efforts, puts $15,000 in his pocket. It was a $30,000 total purse for the men. 15 of that going to the winner, okay? I'll guarantee you that those rotating platforms cost $25,000 or $30,000, if not more, to put on that stage for an opening of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And then they were useless after that because obviously, you can't be posing while you're spinning around in circles, right? So to the promoters, and I don't even know who the promoters are, so don't get on me about hating people. Okay, that's a lot of money to spend on production, where that money could have gone in to the athletes. That money could have been spent. Let's just say it was 25 grand, which would not be crazy, as you know, in production world. That's an extra $25,000 to do a breakdown, folks. And that's why me and Shawn are always campaigning to get more money in the kitty for these bodybuilders. Rubio won the show. 15,000. Let's just take some taxes out of there, Shawn. Let's just take it down to 10. That's fair, isn't it? Okay. 10 grand. I'll guarantee you it cost him more than 10 grand to actually prepare for the show. And even if he didn't, because he was coming off the show, what do you make? A couple of grand? Second place, Shawn, would have been half, 7.5 minus taxes. The second place guy lost money. This is why we're always campaigning, everybody.
No, I mean, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And if if those little stands didn't come with the stage, yeah, it wouldn't have made sense. Promoters, I think, cut corners in the wrong area and waste money in some of the wrong areas. And we only know that because we've seen a million stages. We stood on a million stages. And being a promoter, we know what these little elements cost. And I just think that the more we complain, the more I think the promoters are going to have to think twice about wasting money. I mean, at the end of the day, the complaints that we're talking about do come back to affect the bottom line of the athletes that we tear apart. We're constructively criticizing these athletes, but what our argument has to do with is how do we get more money in the athlete's pocket and stop wasting money on athletes that don't belong? Like, again, I'm going to use the American Idol analogy. It starts off at the beginning of the year. I don't know, let's just say it takes 7 weeks for that show to take place. Thousands of people think they are the American Idol. They go through an elimination process. When I get to the finale of the American Idol, they have 10 people from around the United States. Out of thousands, they wind it down to 10. 10 is the magic number for me, because I think when you get to the finals, that's all that deserves financial compensation. This is from a 13-year Olympian, 14-year professional, who's never missed a Mr. Olympia since he was in it in 1988, never missed the Arnold Classic since 1989. It is not a winner-take-all when you're only paying the top 10. But if I know that only the top 10 are getting paid, when I qualify for the Olympia, it's not a shock, it's not a surprise when I place 11th, and all I get is maybe a certificate of participation and maybe a souvenir Olympia medal that says I was there. That suffices. I'm fine. If you're only paying the top 10, I know that the day that I qualified. Rubio, when he qualified last week, gets his Olympia information, and in that packet says financial reimbursement of X number of dollars for 11 through 15. The finals start with prize money. Whatever money's going to the athletes 15 on down is now going into 10th place up to 6th place, right? And stop wasting money on areas that nobody is paying attention to. I want the final guys to get paid. I don't care about everybody in the Olympia. It's not a participation sport. It's an elimination. It's a cut. It's you got to make the grade. If you're not 10, you're not getting paid. I know that as soon as I qualify. That's what happens when you go to an Olympia qualifying show. I have a show in Hawaii. My top 3 athletes are getting paid. Everyone else, it's pizza and beer. They all know that before they get on a plane. When you go to all of the Olympia qualifiers, they know it's either the top 3 or the top 5 are getting paid. Everyone else is pizza and beer. Why is that not a surprise to add to my Olympia contract that the top 10 are getting paid, everyone else is pizza and beer? You cut a lot of expenses. There's 11 pro categories.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see the finals at the finals. I don't want to see what I missed at prejudging on the final stage. It is not rocket science. Use the prejudging for what it's designed for. Cut and eliminate. And when you cut and you eliminate, it frees up money to put into the top 10 so that everyone is eating in the top 10. If everyone knows it, it's not a shock and awe or a surprise.
Well, and to be fair, the Olympia is actually, now we brought up different shows, of course, but we're going to focus on the Olympia. The Olympia actually pays top 15. Now, you don't get a lot from, after 10th. I mean, you get some money, but it's not a crap load of money. To your point, and I'm all with you, that yes, to the winners become the spoils. Now, whether that's top 10, top 12, top 15, you can make it whatever you want. The point you're making and the point we have made is there's a lot more money to be appropriated there if you're not shipping in 450 athletes from around the world.
Correct.
It's a no. Listen, it's very noble, and let's again, we keep things extremely real here. It's a very noble cause, and Jake should be giving credit for that on one hand because he is willing to put out, and it's a sizable amount of money, people. Okay, this is over $1 million you're talking. Okay, this is not a small amount of change here, but the sport has exponentially grown so much over the years that it's become an exercise in futility, number one, and two. And I agree 100% with you, Shawn, that it can't be a participation type of thing where, well, this guy qualified from Portugal. Well, this guy qualified from the outer banks of Mars. This guy qualified, and we got to ship everybody in. Listen, that's just not the way it goes or it should go when you have this many participants. So I think there's some rearranging that can be done, but I want to make sure the credit gets out because, again, they're going to take some snippet of this right here, like we're complaining or bitching about it. It's like, no, we're not complaining or bitching. What we're suggesting is that you can rearrange this a little bit, okay, where the spoil's going to go to that top 10, top 15, again, whatever you guys want to reward.
Top 10.
That's above our pay grade. You guys make that decision. But whatever it is, that they all get padded up a little bit more in terms of financial, because listen, it is not cheap to get ready for a show, let alone all year long if you're competing. How much did Sassarati, he competed, what, 5-6 times this year? I mean, that could not have been cheap.
Well, let me go on record, Bob, because again, I'm a strong proponent.
Please do, my friend.
Of putting money in the athlete's pocket. I put my money where my mouth is. Created the Best Poser Award, giving out tens of thousands of dollars to numerous different athletes. I've been a promoter since 2006. I was the first one to put up prize money for the 202 division in New York in 2007.
Yeah, buddy.
David Henry won that show.
210.
I'm still doing it. David Henry won that show. I'm still doing it to this day. So I'm not some guy just talking out his ass because I have no financial gain in this on the Olympia stage. But if these athletes can travel the globe to try to qualify and know that if they're out of the top 3 or the top 5, they're getting no prize money, it's not beyond the realm of comprehension that going to the biggest show on the planet and they're not a top 10 finalist, that they're not going to be showcased at the finals. That's not a surprise. It's not a diss. It's not disrespectful. The money that's being allocated to the non-top 10 finalists, to me, is a waste of resources because those resources should be going to the reward to the finalists that have busted their butts and got there. Not everyone works on the same level. Not everyone sacrifices the same thing. That's why you have a winner and you have losers. And typically outside the top 10, everyone is 11. There's nothing to break down. If you're not in the top 10 and you're not in the final, how about who got 11th on the American Idols last year? Nobody cares.
I don't know. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're looking for the American Idol. We're looking for Mr. Olympia, Miss Olympia. We do not care about the 11th place person. It's great for them and their family, but if you don't cut the mustard, you're not getting the conversation. That's life. The NFL has 53-man roster. If you're not on that 53-man roster, you're watching from the stands or from the comfort of your home, and you're waiting until next year's tryouts. That's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see the money that's being wasted on our non-top 10 finalists be reallocated and redistributed to 6th place to 10th place. You don't have to go out and look for the money. The money is there. And I think that the athletes should have to find their own way to Las Vegas like they do to all the other qualifying shows. That's not me dissing the athletes. That's me saying you have to work for what you want, right? If you're going to get fed, you have to work. I'm going to have to work to make that top 10 to get my investment back. Bottom line.
Here's the thing, Shawn. You can do a little bit of both. Listen, there's 10 different ways you can skin a cat. I don't know why anybody is skinning a cat anyway, but anyway, we like to use that expression. And it doesn't really apply to the men's open. The men's open is 15 guys. Let's just keep it what it is. There's going to be a few that either can't get here, pull out, injury, whatever.
That's true.
But there's about 15. Okay, so when we're talking about this stuff, everybody, it's not really the men's open per se. Like that, and in effect, everybody can get paid. If you got 15, you boom, there's your top 15. This applies more towards men's physique, classic physique, women's bikini, because those are going to have upwards of 60 to 70 athletes or more in each category. This is where I have proposed, and I would like to formally propose it if I would be allowed. Yes, you can do a reimbursement system. You can pick out 15 major shows, pay for those people to come in. Then you've got a natural split. Everybody else, if you qualify, you're on your own dime. You can come, you can participate, you go to the cut round. If you make the cut round, if you're one of those 5 athletes, let's just say, It makes the cut round out of those people. The 5 gets added to the 15. There's 20 people. Start your prejudging, cut it to 10, pay those 10 people on the final stage, and do it in one day. Do it in one day. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but put these categories on one day to help these athletes out a little bit. Not only is it more costly, but it's much, much more difficult to try to maintain. This is not an endurance sport, everybody. We're looking for the best physiques on a given time frame. Put that men's open on at 12 noon. Put the men's finals on at 7 p.m. A classic physique, you go on Friday morning, you go on Friday night, and so on and so on and so on. The cut round takes place just before the prejudging. It would take about, 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes. Now, where do we come up with the time? Because, yes, we have a lot of athletes and a lot of time frames to account for when you're talking about production. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, if you're going to give individuals to 70 people out there, okay, the traditional 1-minute routines, which we can't even do that anymore, because that alone with on-off, 70 people with 70 minutes, but it's not, Shawn, because you've got on-off, introduction, somebody's got to walk from A to B, right, all that jazz. 70 minutes is more like 90 minutes, okay? An hour and a half for individuals that nobody's paying attention, nice for pictures, but the judges can't judge anything when you're on there on your own, okay? If you could chop that in half, you're still looking at 45 minutes of just individual posing, which again, doesn't really help the judges out. They're waiting to get done with it because they want to get comparisons so we can get, your top 5, 6, 7, whatever you're looking for. So we have the time for a cut round that you would be taking because those people would not get individuals at a cut round. You're going to come out in groups. Judges are going to do their thing. You're going to pick 5, as we like to fondly say, the rest of you, pizza and beer. Go enjoy the show.
Well, it's amazing that the USA Championships can have 500 or 600 athletes and still get out from time for dinner. So something is wrong in terms of how some of the things are being run with the number of athletes. But I'm just talking economics.
Yeah.
The Mr. Olympia has never represented to me a participation sport. It has slowly becoming a participation sport because anyone can get there. I think that the reality should be, now that you're here, we're going to separate the cream from the crop. And you can do that with relative ease and still make the finals palatable for everyone involved. Sitting through a finals right now is a little bit painful, and I don't speak for myself. Go and watch. Go and sit through the finals of the Olympia like we have, and you tell me afterwards if you're hungry, if you want to go out, if you want to visit Las Vegas and paint the town red. So, there are some things that have to be done that I think change sometimes makes you bleed. But over a period of time, when the wounds heal, sometimes it's the best thing that can happen. Change is not easy. But when it comes, I think it should be swift. And I think it should be orderly. And I think it should be to the benefit of the sport, not to an individual.
Well, Shawn, speaking of Olympias and qualifying and such, the Chicago Pro is once upon us, and that is coming up next week, 17th through the 20th in Chicago. Of course, our good friend Tim Gardner has been putting that on since its inception. It's got to be over 10 years now, along with Tampa, which was coming up. Now, Chicago this year, big change. There is no men's open in Chicago. There is a men's open in Tampa, which has got to be one of the last qualifiers of the year. Expect a big pileup of guys going into that for the last chance saloon. But no open in Chicago, but all the other categories are represented, I'm told. So there will be some Olympians coming from that competition as well. But Shawn, I'd like to finish off with our good friend Milos, who I love.
Well, before you get to Milos, don't forget the Texas Pro.
Oh, the Texas Pro. Yeah, that's coming up. When is that? Is that this week?
I think it's next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
That should be a good show. And if I remember, that was a show Andrew Jack showed up last year. Yeah. Look, unbelievable. I still think if Andrew Jack showed up at the Olympia like he did in Texas, he might have been pushing somebody out of that top 3, top 4 position.
I remember Andrew won that show, and I believe Hunter Labrada skipped it to go all the way to Italy.
Yeah.
To qualify for the Olympia.
Well, he took off this year, so he's not even competing, Hunter. So hopefully he makes his way back. He's a good talent. But so I bring up our buddy Milos because we love Milos. We all go back 30 years. We love to debate. If there's anything that Milos loves in this world, it's to debate. And I see one of his favorite targets, of course, is me.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he can never win a debate against me ever. He's 0-10, whatever it is. I am undefeated. And I love you, Milos, but once again, he put out He actually said himself the other day, he put out a post on Facebook and it said, so not to beat a dead horse, right? Which is
not to beat a dead horse, but here we go.
Yeah, but he's going to beat it to absolute death. So Milos has been on a campaign to bring back the posing round and the symmetry round. Now, we have talked about this over and over and over, and I just can't. Maybe you can find some better words, Sean, but I have explained to him two things. Both those rounds are still in place. They've never been taken out. Every single show we go to, everybody, it starts with the symmetry round, okay? Those 4 turns. That Big Steve or whoever says, gentlemen, quarter turned to the right. That's a symmetry round. Now, are you getting a score on it? No, you are getting judged on it. Posing round. The posing round we have every single show. You have an individual posing routine, which, Sean, you've heard 10,000 shows that I've called. All right, we're going to move to our individual round of posing. Each competitor has 1 minute to perform the routine of their choice. Okay, that means they can hit any pose on this earth, including Milos. Yeah, that's the quarterback pose and the mantis pose, and that's my Milos imitation. I can do a better Milos than Milos.
I love it.
So these are in there. They've never been taken out. Now, your argument is that you want it scored. Okay, here's the problem with that, Sean. Okay, it doesn't change anything. You going out there on your own. Okay, now his argument, to be fair, is that, well, there's not really a symmetry round. It's not really a posing round. They're just muscularity rounds in those positions. Here's the problem I got, Sean, okay? Bob Paris, who I love his physique, loved his what he brought to the table, his artistry, his mastery of probably one of the best posers of all time, right?
Inspiring.
You know how many shows he won in his career, Sean?
1 less than I did.
Very close, yeah. He won 0.
2 less than me.
He won no shows in his career. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, that would be shocking to most people. If you say, wait, Bob Paris?
Yeah.
He never won a show. It's like, no. And Milos, to his credit, 72 or 74 shows, won 2. Right. Now, I will guarantee you, Milos, and I put this out to you with love and brotherhood, okay? You have every score sheet that you've ever saved in this world, okay? Go look at them. If you can find anywhere where you won a symmetry round, and Milos, I love this symmetry, beautiful symmetry, and another poser who was fantastic. Milos was amongst the top 2 or 3 of modern bodybuilders. Not talking about Ed Corney and the old school, in the display and the art of posing. But the only shows he ever won those rounds, kind of like yourself, were on shows that you won.
Yeah, now, I'm not sure where the disconnect with Milos is on that, because he's been there 73 shows. So you did win the posing round and you did win the symmetry round, but you only won it twice in your career, like me.
Right.
I won 2 shows. I won the Ironman and the Arnold, and the rest was all Olympia, which I did not win. And in all of those years, I never won the symmetry, and I never won best poser. So you only win those rounds when you win, because I know Dorian Yates has 6 best poser and symmetry because he has 6 Olympia titles.
Right.
I think Lee Labrada was winning in New York, in Chicago in 1990. He famously reminds me that Lee Haney was trailing in Chicago in 1990 at the drug tested show. So Lee would have been only trailing in either the symmetry or the compulsory rounds to have Lee Labrada ahead. But Lee would have lost to Lee Haney in the posing round. Now, who's a better poser, Lee Haney or Lee Labrada?
Right.
So here's the argument. Bringing back something that was never scored properly in the first place is just a moot point. It makes absolute zero sense. Nothing has changed with respect to that. And even if you're the absolute best poser and you're last in the show, it doesn't elevate you into the top echelon, which I thought, and I really believed in 94, I had a better posing routine than Dorian, and my posing routine would elevate me if I was trailing.
Of course.
To no avail. I did not win the posing round, even though it was a 3.5-minute routine. And people talked about that posing routine to this day, whereas Dorian Yates is still being talked about as the winner of the 94
And just to interject, Sean, right? You're not like in 6th or 7th or something. You're in 1st and 2nd. You guys are battling for the win. So you're that close in terms of muscularity, in terms of comparison, in terms of everything that the judges take into place. If the posing round meant a shit of anything, there is not a chance on this earth that you would have. And we're using you as an example. But again, I could use Milos himself, that again, he lost the 99 Toronto Pro. He lost against Pavel Jablanicki, who couldn't pose his way out of a wet paper bag. Again, you're talking about 1 and 2. It never meant anything then, Milos. This is what I'm trying to explain to my brother. Okay, it was never scored as it should be. And I'll give you this. You keep saying, bring back the beauty of bodybuilding, bring back the art, bring back the art, the form. How are you bringing it back when the physique doesn't change? So you go out there on your own and you do a routine. How am I supposed to score that against anybody else? Like, okay, so the guy in 4th came out and did a great routine. Well, okay, so what? The physique is the difference then. So all it is another physique round, which we don't need. I don't need 10 physique rounds to pick a winner.
The only way it works, Bob, is the best poser award. Because you can certainly choose the winner of the posing round, but it would not affect the overall score of who's the best bodybuilder on the stage. Not much we understand.
So just for giggles, I pulled out just a random show. Okay, the 88 Olympia. Okay. Lee Haney, Rich Gaspari, Barry DeMay, Lee Labrada, Gary Stridham, Mike Quinn, Brian Buchanan, Samir, and Ron Love was your top 9. Bob Paris is 10th. Okay. Now, out of all these guys I just read, arguably the best symmetry would have been Bob Paris. Okay. Yes. He's right there with Lee Haney and
Barry DeMay.
Maybe Barry DeMay. I guess Barry obviously was, a little shorter and stockier. Okay. So when we talk symmetry, again, folks, we're talking shape, symmetry, and proportion. Those 3 items.
You beat him at the World Championships that year.
Yes. Yes. So, and arguably the best poser out of that entire crew, without question, is Bob Paris. Okay. Haney, great poser. Yeah, you got and Lee Labrada, who's in 4th, but again, but certainly Paris is in the top 3. Those 3, without even any question, are the best posers, right? Of display and the art of their muscularity. So if Paris wins or takes 2nd, or even 3rd in that pose, 2 rounds out of 3, because obviously muscularity is going to go to Haney and Gaspari. Okay, he wouldn't have been 10th, Shawn. If you actually do the math and the numbers, he would have been in the top 3, because you can't win 2 out of 3 rounds and place any lower than that, because you actually got some 1s in that category, right? So once again, I use this as my be-all, end-all. Bob Paris, again, who never won a show in his life, okay? If scoring is being done properly on symmetry, proportion, on shape, on posing and presentation, how does this guy not have 10 wins to his credit? And it's because it's never been judged as such, and it never will be.
Well, I hope that answers Milos' question. He can keep arguing, but if he really wants to make a change, do what I did. Give away some money for your best posers, and maybe some people will hear you, and they'll get excited. I'm 100% certain that Melvin Anthony and Darren Charles and who else was my best poser? Several people.
Well, listen, Vince Taylor,
David Henry, Kai Green, they've all benefited from
Vince King, Kamali, Tricky Jackson. I can go.
Tricky Jackson won one as well. I put the money up for these guys with the help of my friends. I'm not going to take credit that other athletes didn't donate and contribute, including Steve Bleckman, to that Best Poser award. But I was able to get people to contribute, and the athlete that was the best poser got compensated.
Well, listen, we've got some great posers now. You've had one in your backyard for a couple of years. Logan Franklin, who is arguably one of the best posers in classic physique.
$30,000, yeah.
Right? He's made some real good money in posing. Terrence Ruffin is just a beautiful poser. Just literally one of the best on the planet. This guy can move, and he does, again, these are traditional. These aren't breakdancing, pop locking routines. These are traditional bodybuilding, classic routines that these guys are just art. But you know what? I haven't seen one of those routines make a difference in any show that any one of them won or lost.
No, it's still a physique contest at the end of the day.
This is true, my friend. So I hope that at least answers some questions there. Milos, as always, we love you, bro. I invite you to any debate, anytime, any place, anywhere, because once again, you will be 0 for 11 because it doesn't make any sense, and it's not going to change. Listen, the artistry and the beauty of bodybuilding can still be there. You're still being judged on what you display out there, but bodybuilding is 99% comparison. You could literally get rid of the individual posing round and the posing round, and the symmetry round, and just have a show of comparisons, and you will have the exact same lineup. And I will leave you with this, Milos, just to put an exclamation point on my argument back at you. Okay, so you think that these are things that need to be put in, absolutely, without question. Bring these things back. He's going to write Tyler Mannion. Okay, So I'm going to give you this. You just saw Dubai, okay? You were there, or you watched it at least, Milos, right? Okay. So given your system with the symmetry round back in, with the posing round back in, I'd like for you, and you come on this platform, you come on with us, Milos. We'd love to have you. We can have some fun with that. Or you can go on Dennis's show or whatever. You're on 100 shows, so pick one. And give me your top 5 that would be different than what you just saw, given your system. And I'll even go you one further. Let's go to the Olympia last year. Okay? Samson, Hadi, Derek, blah, 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 blah. So give me your, I don't know, just say top 6 and how much different it would have been if the symmetry round and the posing round were taken into consideration. So how would that have looked, Milos? Would the guy in 7th have been the winner? Would the guy in 4th have been 2nd? Like, give me your hypothetical. This is how much it's going to change things if those are put in place, Shawn.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, nothing's going to change. So his argument is moot. Makes no sense. Some people like to argue just to hear themselves talk. But what Milos is talking about is falling on deaf ears because there's no legs to it. The only thing he can do, again, is if he wants to see better routines, incentivize it monetarily, and then offer it up to the athletes so that they step up their game. I did that. Milos, join me. If you want to see that happen, great, but you're not going to change the order of finish based on the routines because all of the routines are down here and you're remembering what they used to be like when you were part of it up here. Times have changed. We've got to change with them.
Well, with that, Shawn, it comes to another conclusion of another exciting voice of bodybuilding. And for those looking for some sort of soundbite or something out of context that you guys can use as a title, I'm going to say this: Nick Walker rules. Okay, so you guys can put that out there. It has no context to anything, doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I just said it. So put that out there, and then so at least there's something positive out there from Sugar Shawn Ray and myself. That's it, Shawn. We'll catch up next time.